Hello everyone, welcome to the next episode on SAP UI5. In the last class of SAP UI5, we have discussed how to create routing configuration and manifest.json file. In today's episode, we will go ahead and discuss about route match handler. So what problem did we solve by far with the view instantiation with the router basically? So what are all the features which router gave me? So by far, with the help of a router, I solved followings. The first issue, instantiation of all views, including root view, which is nothing but app.view.xml. Okay, so including the root view, which is app.view.xml, we saw the instantiation of these views automatically with the help of router. So this is what by far we were able to solve our problem with the help of router. We saw that when we put the routing configuration inside of manifest.json file, what system does is it automatically creates the object of such views for us, right? Isn't it? It was automatically creating the object of views for me. Then we also saw the back and forward button was working because we have something called a tag name associated to every route which we navigate. The browser will keep track of history of it. Okay. So browser will keep a track of history of everything, and whenever you're going back and forth, system will automatically allows you to store that history. So browser stores the history of each tag you navigated, and then it allows you to basically use the browser back and forth button by far in the system. So but again, we saw an additional problem however into that approach, which we will also be solving in today's class using another concept. So let's go ahead and note down those advantages. Maybe just quickly log into my web IDE. Just give me a minute. System seems to be again recovering from the upgrade, so just stay online. Let me just recover from my upgrade of the system. You can see multiple updates are available. It actually forced me to restart today due to some Windows patch was applied. So unfortunately it happened so during the class, so it got a little bit of delayed. Okay, so we saw instantiation of all the views including the root view was done automatically. This was the first problem. Second problem was navigation using browser back and forth button. But there again we saw a disadvantage with limitation, because if I was selecting multiple list items, it was not taking me back to my previously selected list item. This was a disadvantage in the earlier approach. So we will also here to solve that particular problem. Okay, so let us go ahead and discuss that. How can we solve that? So let's come back. You can see it's just still loading my web IDE. So what concept do we use to make sure do we use to make sure that the state of every single navigation is tracked by browser? Which concept, anybody? Which concept did we use to make sure that the state of every single application state will be tracked? So we use the concept of router, of course, but what was so special when we were using navigation in the browser URL, so that you saw it was it was storing the state of the URL, right? So we saw something called tag name. So tag name, or this was also known as pattern. So this is what was so special. Because of that, browser was keeping track, keeping an eye on every single path, every single route. Like I took an example also earlier in my training blog. If I have to go to directly session recording tab, I'll directly give you the endpoint. So you don't have to go to blog and search for something and then click and then go inside. Not required. Browser directly keeps track of it. And browser also knows the URL endpoint. The moment you launch your URL with the endpoint, system would automatically take you to that particular state of the application. Okay, guys, that's what system will do for us. It will keep a track of it. So that's the reason why our navigation to list item was also not working. So maybe let me just go back and restart my web IDE and show you what is that which we have to additionally now do to make sure that every list item selection is also stored. Okay, every list item selection should also be stored, guys, as a new root. So what is so unique in every fruit? Every fruit which we have a unique fruit name. So I need to make sure the tag name also includes the fruit name, so that I can make use of tag name to restore the state of UI. Okay, guys, we need to include fruit name as part of our tag name. So browser keeps track of every fruit instead of just keeping track of Trump. So yesterday the target which we created was hashtag Trump, right? This was the target. So instead of just hashtag Trump, it should now have also the fruit name appended. So for example, first you select apple. So it should be hashtag Trump slash apple. Then you select, let's say, orange. So hashtag Trump slash orange. Then you selected, let's say, banana. So you say Trump slash banana. Now what will happen when you click on back button in browser? Anybody? What will happen when you click back button in this case in the browser? System will take you to the previously selected fruit, which is orange. And if you click on orange back button, it will take you back to the apple. This is how browser will keep track, because every single tag name is now unique. Do you all get this concept? Every single tag name is unique. So along with the Trump, we are also going to include the fruit name inside of our tag name, so that browser understand it everything differently and it keeps track of the history of it. Clear everyone what we are planning? Everyone clear? So we need to now append the fruit name as part of the tag name Trump, which we had created yesterday, to keep track of the history of every single application selection. Let's go back, come to the manifest.json, and here we had defined our tag name. So maybe just close these apps which I had opened up earlier and directly go to my first Fury app, go to manifest and go to the routing configuration, where I have the root name, pattern name is Trump. And now what I'll do is, guys, I'll just put slash and I just put curly braces and I will say some name. I say Mario. So I'm just keeping a variable here called Mario. What do you think? Why system will treat it as a variable? What's so special about it? Why system treats it as a variable? How does system know that it's not a literal, just like Trump is a literal? How system knows that it's not a literal, it's instead of a literal, it's a variable? What is that I've done special here, a special treatment? Because of that, system treats it as a variable. Absolutely, we put a curly braces. That's why system treats Mario as a variable, not as a literal. Trump is treated as a literal as it is. Okay, so now this Mario variable, I will fill it up with the fruit name. Watch carefully. I will fill it up with the fruit name. So when we are invoking in the main controller, when users select a list item, we are invoking this root nav to detail. I will put comma, curly braces and value of Mario. and this value of Mario is nothing but I'm just going to get my fruit name here. Okay, I'm going to get my fruit name with this path, and then with this path we are going to put it. You can also directly put the path itself, guys. Okay, this is a good practice. Rather than fruit name, you also put directly the path of the entity which was selected. Clear, everyone? So this is a very good practice. Instead of fruit name, now I'm going to put path. Watch carefully the difference now. When I run my application, watch out the difference, guys. What will happen? Every single selection which you will make, every single selection which you make on the UI, it will be uniquely tagged. Okay, it will be uniquely tagged now. Watch out carefully, very very careful, guys. This is the crux of router. Okay, this is the crux of router which I'm showing you here. So watch out carefully this part. So let's go on and try to see that how will it work. So now watch here. Currently, what is the hashtag right now? Anybody? What do you think is the hashtag right now? What is the hashtag value right now? Anyone? What is the hashtag value at this moment? None. It's none. And since it is none, if you come back and see manifest JSON, what is the target which should be loaded for none hashtag? For none hashtag, what should be the target which should be loaded, which is Donald, and Donald target is going to load in master section and main view, and which it is doing it. Now I select plum. Watch carefully. I select plum. Watch out this URL. I select plum, and let's see. I selected plum. Something went wrong. It's not changing hashtag, neither it's changing the URL on the right. So press F12. There is some error you see in the console. See, invalid value slash fruits slash 14 for segment Mario. Okay, invalid value slash fruits slash 14 for segment Mario. So in Mario it's unable to put it. So maybe what I'll do is I'll just put this path, and I will split this path and take the last element. So I say split based on slash, it gives me an array, and I'm going to take the last element of that array and just say dot length -1. Clear, everyone? So I'm just going to put the fruit number inside of the list. What is the index number? So every path has slash fruit slash 14, you see here 14. So I just want this number to be extracted. That's why I have done a string operation to split it based on slash and take the last index to be sent it to the Mario. Now let's come back and try once again. I save this and I refresh. It reloads my code, and now what I'm going to do is I will just go ahead and experience it. So let's do that. So I come and click and watch carefully now, guys. On the top, do you see something happening on the top? Anybody? Do you see the URL path? What is the tag name now, guys? What is the hashtag which has got it? You have got slash trump slash 14. See, the index have come up. Now let me just select another fruit. Let's say Alfonso. I select Alfonso. Now anybody, what do you see? What do you see? What has happened? System now puts this new tag name for the index of the element inside of my list. Isn't it? Isn't that beautiful? Do you see this? 0, 14. So every single fruit selection is also tracked by browser. I select cherry. You see it's 21. It has put 21 as the hashtag. Inside the hashtag, along with Trump, it is putting the value. That's what the magic is, guys. Now every single path is unique. Do you think these are all unique, right, guys? Yes or no? Do you think every single selection in the list is unique? Hence browser keeps track of the history now automatically. Watch carefully. I press back button. Don't look at bottom of the screen, just press back. What should happen now when I press back button? Anybody? What should happen when I press back button? I'm in this state. No, not 14. It will go to 0. This is the previous state, 0. I press back and you see the URL, it changed to 0. Again, if I press back button, what will happen? Now I'm at 0. What will happen if I press back button? It will go to 14. Let's press back button and you see it has gone to 14. Now what happened if I put forward button? What happens if I put forward button? I'm at 14. What happens? It will go to 0, which means now system is putting the ID, unique ID, or nothing but your index of the element of the fruit inside the browser properties, browser URL, isn't it, guys? Do you see browser is keeping track of the history of it automatically? Isn't that magical, right? That's the magic of a router. But the main goal is not this. The main goal is, Anubhav, this is bullshit. I don't care. What I care is it should change thing below, right? It should change thing below. When I say back, it should select my Alfonso. I say forward, it should say select something else according to the state of the UI. Yes, that's the next step. And for implementing that, I would go and now remove this binding from here. This particular binding, I will remove it from here, guys, completely, which we were earlier doing it incorrect. Though we didn't reach to this concept, that's why I didn't give you high dose. And now we go to second view, and we will implement a special method called root match handler. What is root match handler method? Okay, root matched handler. This method triggers every time when we load, when the page root changes. Okay, whenever the root changes, whenever you press back button, forward button, or you manually change the URL, this method will trigger every time, guys. Clear, everyone? When this method triggers, every time your root changes, your URL changes, every time you change from 0 to 14, 14 to 21, whatsoever change you do, this method will trigger. So let's put the event handler for this method. First gets the router object, this dot o router, and then say this dot get owner component. You see web id code completion is not working. Dot get router, and now I'll say this dot router attach root pattern matched. Okay, whenever root pattern match, call Hercules. I am just putting these character names so that you can understand what is something you can decide and what is something you cannot decide, which is fixed. Clear, everyone? So wherever you see character name Mario, Spider-Man, Superman, Hercules, Iron Man, these are all something which you can decide. You are the developer, you can decide. And that's a big confusion. What is standard and what is that I can decide? So you can decide the method name which you are coding. You cannot decide the event name which SAP provides you to code against the root match. So Hercules is a method which you can define now. So I put Hercules here, and this Hercules also has a function. It's an event handler, and I'll also put an event here, and let's put curly braces and put a debugger just to show you what happens now every time the root changes. What will happen? Remember, restart your app always from first scratch. Don't start again from target. If you refresh here, system will reload this target trump 0. We don't want to do that. We want to restart from scratch. So remove the target and restart from scratch. And now watch out. Press F12. Press F12. Watch out. I click on plum. I click on plum, guys. Watch out what happens. I click on plum, and voila. Do you see what triggered? Do you see what triggered? Anybody? What do you see triggered? What triggered, guys? What triggered? What triggered, guys? Come on. What triggered here? Which thing triggered? What triggered? Come on. You can see the code here below. It triggered Hercules. Hercules is what? Whenever the root is changing, Hercules will trigger. And you see on the top, the target is Trump slash 14. And now in this event, somehow you should be able to get this index. So I say dot get parameters, and you see arguments, and you see the Mario variable value is 14. Now, can't you build the path for binding using this 14? You remember? Can't you build the path using this now? Anybody? You've got the index of your item. can't you now build the path quite easily, which needs to be binded with the current view? You can use this variable and build your path for the element binding with current view. So let's read this value, get parameter, and then I'll just say get parameter of arguments, and this gives me a JSON, and inside this there is a Mario, and that's my value. And now I'll take this value and concatenate with slash fruits plus my value, and that becomes my path for element binding. This becomes my path for element binding of the single element which user selected. That's the path of that element binding, guys. I can now take this whole of stuff and prepare my path here at runtime. Can come back here in Hercules and I'll say var as path equals to, this is my path now, guys, which you see earlier you were driving this path here and you were doing a bind element here with this path. Now you can just do this dot bind element because you are in the current view. This dot get view, my current view, get me the current view object and then just do bind element and pass in the path inside. We are done. Element binding with current view is done. Congratulations, you're ready. Now shoot up and see the magic. See the magic now, guys. Let me just come back and refresh once again. I'm just going to remove this path from the end and refresh, and now see, I click on plum. Voila, it's loading the plum. Okay, now I click on jam, I click on mango. It is loading mango. Now I come down and I click on orange. It's loading orange. What will happen when I click back now? What will happen? Which method will get called when you click on back button? Hercules will get called. It will go to the previously selected item index here on the URL. This index we will read from the URL in Hercules, and then we are building the path automatically to bind the second view. I click on back. Watch carefully. What was the previously selected element? Before orange, what did we select? Anybody? Mango. Watch carefully on the right side. Forget about left side right now. Look at the right side. I say back. You see, wow, mangoes. I see again back. Plum. Very nice. I see forward. Mangoes, superb. I see forward. Oranges, superb. Is that what you wanted to achieve? Guys, come on. Is that what you wanted to achieve for your end user? Restoring the state of the UI, guys. And now if I want to share this with my colleague, I don't have to tell him go to the app, open the list, inside the list scroll down and search for orange and click on the orange and then he see this. No, just take this URL, copy this URL, paste it into his window and done. He will click on the URL, it will restore the state of the UI. Let me show you. I'll just copy this and I'll just paste it here, and maybe I'll put a random value. Tell me any random value out of 1 to 20. Just tell me any value, anyone, any value you tell me. I don't know about the fruit. 14. So let's test it also. 14, press enter and it will directly load. 14 means plum. You see, directly it loads the restore the state of the UI as it is based on the fruit index. So maybe if I just put here fruit index as 22, press enter, you see it's custard apple. So even with the URL change manually by user, it restore the state of the UI, or your browser back and forth button, when it is changing the state of the UI, it restore the state of the UI. That's the magic of root match handler method. Clear everyone? Root match handler method. Absolutely clear. Now the problem right now is this list selection is not working. If I say back, it went to mangoes, but list selection did not change. So that also we can make influence quite easily. So it's very simple to do that. So you got the path of the element, and now with this path you get the item from the model. Okay, so get the list item object first of all here. So we need to somehow obtain our list item object. For that we have to traverse little bit at the top level. So this is my current view object, and this current view object dot get parent gives me the detail page dot get parent gives me again the parent of this, which is split app, and then this get master pages of 0 gives me the master page object. So this is my master view object. Okay, this is my main view object indirectly, and now I can just call this and say var give me the list baby, and I say this dot get me the list. So I say get, so I got the master object, and I say by id, and I just pump in the id of the list control here. That's how I obtain object of a control outside my view, part of split app. Okay, I go to parent, and parent tells me the object of the view, and from the view I got the list object. Just to be very sure, go here, check the id of the list control. It's id fruits, not id list. So that's what I have to put it here, and I got my list object. And now I can just say set selected item. Okay, and I just have to also just do list dot get items, and I'll just pump in the index here, and let me just pass in this index, this Mario index. Remember guys, this Mario index should be converted to an integer. It's a character at the moment, it should be converted to an integer. So I say first var index equals to this dot, and I'm just gonna do parse int. That's a JavaScript function to convert some value into integer, parsing into integer, and I just use this index over here. And that's it guys, it would do the selection of the list hopefully. If not, then we will debug, not a problem. Why are we afraid? Let's save this, let's come back, refresh. And now if I refresh, what will happen? What do you think? Anybody? If I just refresh here, what will happen? You see the target, it's set to trump 0. If you refresh, it will reload the trump of 0, whatever value it is, it will reload that. So trump of 0, which is mangoes, has been loaded. But oops, I don't see my list selected. Maybe I just select jamun. No, it's not selecting my list item guys, there's some problem. Press F12 and let's debug this. So maybe just go to sources, Hercules here, this part I want to debug, and maybe I just say back button, it goes to 13. Now here it gets the index as 13, so index is 13. Now I get the master page object, it is giving me view object also perfectly fine. It's giving me the list object also, very good. But inside of the list now I'm trying to get the item. Let me just get the list item index based on 13. What it gives me, it gives me some item, fruits of 8 it is giving. So the index is 13 and it's giving fruits of 8. There is some problem with this piece of code. Let me check what's the value it is going to select now in this case. So I just go and check out the properties of my list. So I just check the properties, which fruit it is going to select, which item it is. Association, aggregation, and properties. It's going to select mulberry guys, it's going to select mulberry. So I think this index based selection is truly not effective, it's not going to work actually. So this index based selection which I did is incorrect. So the index is mismatching because we have already sorted our products here and grouped our products. That's why index is different, and by mistake it goes and you can see it selected mulberry somewhere at the bottom. However, it should have selected jamun only, right? So that's a problem. Let me just go and check that out, how to solve that problem. So instead of just this index, we have to now find an element, exact element, and that element we have to select. So maybe I'll write a little bit of logic here. What I'll do is I'll just get, based on this path, I'll get the fruit name. So I say var fruit name, and I'll just ask my UI5 to give me the model object, this dot get view dot get model. So that gives me my model object. Get property, and just going to get the property value, this dot fruit name. So this gives me the name of the fruit. Okay, so all this coding is everything covered already in the past. How to get the value from model object based on path. This is all your JSON, which I taught you in JSON model chapter. Okay, now fruit name we have got, and now I'm just going to loop all the items of the list control. So I say for var I equals to 0, I is less than total number of items dot length I plus plus, and I'll say get me the items of ith item and get me the its name, which is there in get title. I think it's in the title only. Yeah, it's the title. And if this title is matching, this is the item I need to select, boss. If this is matching with my fruit name, that's my item to be selected. So I'm just going to select this item. So let me just put this inside of a parenthesis little bit. So yeah, and I'm just going to compare this. It's giving me an error, empty block statement. Yeah, let's write it. And now I'm going to say this is the item which should be selected. So I just say o list dot select set selected item of ith item. I found this guy and just break the loop. That's it. After selection, break the loop, no further looping required. That's my piece of code. Let's come back and test it. So I'm just going to remove it, right? Start from very scratch from the first page. So remove the hashtag. You should just restart. Now it's a restart state. Watch carefully now. Let's go and put hashtag trump of 14. I guess 14 was mango. Let's say 14, and it's plum, guys. It didn't even select it plum this time also. It didn't select it, so maybe there's something wrong. Let's press F12 once again, debug, and put it 0. Press enter. It hits my debugger, and press F10, 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 F10. So you have got the fruit name Alfonso mangoes. Now it's going to loop over each of the list item. It gets the title. Okay, so first item didn't match, second item didn't match, third item didn't match, fourth item didn't match, fifth item didn't match. Okay, let me just be very sure if the titles are getting correct. So let's come here and make sure. Yeah, it's giving me the title at least, so that should be fine, guys. So F10, let's see if it at least it matches one of the item. It's looping. Yeah.
Um, I think for the title we have binded two properties like fruit name and its
Right. So for title, actually, guys, we have bound two properties: fruit name and its fruit, its flavor. So that's the reason the comparison is every time failing. So let me just go ahead and change it. It's not benefit. We have just did it differently. So maybe just go back to the view 2, and in the title of the list, actually in the main view, we have done a binding with two properties. One was name, and together were taste. So let me remove it and make it just name, just for time being. And let's come back and refresh now one more time. So watch carefully now. It should select mangoes. Refresh, and hopefully the comparison goes good this time, and it should do this. Maybe I just restart from the scratch, and now watch one more time. So I come and select jamun, and now I hope it should work. So let me just go change the root manually to 0, which should select Alfonso. Press enter, voila. You see Alfonso is now getting selected properly. Superb. Maybe I just say 12. I don't know what 12 means. Press enter. It's pineapple. And let's scroll down into the list and see somewhere the pineapple. You should see it would be selected automatically. Voila, you see your pineapple is getting selected automatically. You see the list item selected automatically. That's the beauty of root match handler, everyone. Okay, that's the beauty of root matched handler. Clear, everyone? What is the power of root match handler? Now a general recommendation from my side. So here you see the text comparison is creating a problem. Sometimes it may also cause a problem, so never do text comparison like I did. This was just for explanation. Okay, this was just for explanation. Typically Every business object which is displayed has a unique ID, right? In SAP, when you want to display anything in data, you always have unique ID. For materials, what is the unique ID? Anybody? What is the unique ID for materials in Mara table? Anyone? What is the unique ID for materials? It's Matner. For sales order table, VBAC table, what is the unique ID for every single sales order? What's the unique ID, guys, which is text independent? What is it? In sales order header table, VBAC table, VBELN, perfect answer. So that is what should be used for comparison, not the text. Clear, everyone? That is what should be used for comparison, not the text. However, this is working, but sometimes it is not reliable, because let's say if you try to run your application in a different language and translation has been provided, then you will have issues, isn't it? Right, you will have issues. So be careful that yes, this is absolutely fine, it's working, but again, it depends on the code what you want to write in Hercules. It's your choice. I give you the option, I teach you the concept. Now you apply this concept wherever you like, howsoever you like it. Clear, everyone? So that's what my recommendation to you is. Yes, hopefully you can understand the concept of route match handler. That's the crux of it. That's what is the most important part of it. Okay, moving on to the next concept called fragments in UI5. What is fragments in UI5? So let's discuss about fragments in UI5. Now with this, we complete three most powerful, in fact four most powerful concepts of UI5, which you find it in real-time Fiori apps: component.js, router, route match handler, and manifest.json. These are all the four most important concept when it comes to Fiori development. Now if you go and look at any standard Fiori app, you will understand, because now you know standard. Practice is required. I'm not saying practice is not required. Even for me, it took about 2 months to understand these concepts, which you would have got to know maybe in a week or so, because I'm guiding you. But for me, there was nobody who were guiding me. I need to understand what is the impact of this change. I used to sit, late in the evenings. Sometimes it used to become mornings. The evening used to become mornings to understand these concepts. And there is nobody who explains it, so much of in deep. What is the impact? Like we saw, every single back and forth click was changing the route, right? Nobody teaches these concepts actually. The trainers, majority of the trainers, they will only say, okay, put this code, put this code, put this code. They won't even explain in such a deep that what is the impact of it, why we are doing it, why there is something which we're doing, why we are doing it. That the purpose needs to be clear. The purpose, it's for the end user to restore the state of the UI. Every click back and forth is restoring the state of the UI. And that's not just restoring, you need to make sure that you handle route match handler. Whenever the route changes, it should have the binding code inside Hercules to be able to launch the right data inside the detail, and to be able to select the right index inside of master. That's what exactly we do inside of it. So moving on to the next concept, which is again a very important concept of UI5, it's called fragments. So anyone, which concept did we use to modularize JavaScript code? Which concept did we use? Anybody? Which concept did we use to modularize our JavaScript code? No, no functions, no. Where did you put your reusable functions? No. Where did you put your reusable functions? In the formatter chapter, I taught you something that you should not code your formatter function within the controller. You should put it somewhere else so that it is reusable across. Yes, you have used utils dot formatter, okay, with scaffolding as a dependency management, right? This is what we use to modularize JavaScript code. Now my next question is, if JavaScript is getting modularized, why not Vue, right? Which technology we use to code Vue? Anyone? XML. XML and JavaScript both are brothers and sisters, and it happens so well that I have, let's say, for example, there are two siblings, brothers and sisters, and suddenly dad went to market, and dad has got a nice gift for brother. What will happen? When, if you have siblings, you must have also done it in your life. When your parents get a nice chocolate for your sibling, what happens? Anyone? What happens when your parents get a chocolate, or get a gift, get a toy for your sibling? What happens? You will start crying. You will start demanding for the same, right? You will say मुझे भी चाहिए. That's what is happening here. XML को भी चाहिए. क्या चाहिए? Modularization चाहिए. JavaScript we have modularized, but we didn't thought about this baby, this XML. He is doing all your view functionality, isn't it? He is doing all your view functionality. What if I want to build a reusable piece of XML, and that I want to reuse multiple places? A typical example could be address data, right? I want to build a small piece of screen where I have all the address data like street, post box, landmark, address, pin code, city, state, country, okay, social security, I mean whatsoever for address data. And now I want to reuse it as personal address, official address, temporary address, permanent address, multiple places I want to display same set of address fields. Do you think I will recode every single input field multiple times? Anybody? Do you go and recode every single group of fields? Landmark, street, first line, second line, address line, city, country, postal code, landmark, all these things. Will you code every time? If you want an address for permanent address section, so you want a permanent address, you want a temporary address, you want a home address, you want an office address, yeah, you want multiple times the similar type of fields again and again. Will you recode everything? No. What will you do? How do you modularize your views? Anybody? How to modularize your view? That's what the answer, you yourself answered me, the concept of fragment. That's what the fragment concept. It's a modularization of UI. Fragments are lightweight UI parts used to modularized the user interface in Fiori. They are typically created separately and combined with views at runtime or design time. I will show you both concepts, combining them at design time and combining them at runtime. I will show you um, okay, both these concepts, both at design time and runtime. Clear, everyone? They are fragments. Everyone clear? What is a fragment? The most easiest definition of a fragment, you can give it in an interview. People cannot reject you. They cannot afford to reject you because they need good people in Fiori. I already have a couple of requirements for Pune location. If anybody interested for relocating to Pune location, very good package on UI5 Fiori. Feel free to write back an email. You need to crack an interview and I will take your interview. Okay. If you're interested to relocate to India Pune location, and you want a UI5 Fiori project, please write an email with your resume. I will evaluate and I will schedule your interview. I am only going to take interview. So don't think that I'm your trainer, so I will be light. I know what I taught in the course and I'm gonna be very tough for you. In fact, I will also give you an assignment which you got to complete and submit it in 1 week. Then only you will be qualified for that interview. Package is going to be good. Okay. So make your choice. Okay, moving on. So now that's your fragment part. Here we have it. And now inside of this fragment, what we are doing, we are going to design the UI, and that's we are going to reuse multiple places. Now let's take another example. So I talked about the UI part. Now what if this UI has a button inside? Okay, and when you click on the button, something should happen. Where will you now write the code of this button? Anybody? Because fragments are pure UI. No, they are lightweight UI parts. They don't have their own controllers. Where will you write the code for this button? Okay, where will you write the code for this button? Anybody? Where will you now write the code for this button, which is there as part of fragment? Because fragment,
In which view we are going to call?
right, very good. But many of you might not have understood this part. Yeah, so you can see here fragments are lightweight UI parts and they're combined with views. Some view has to call this fragment, guys, to embed it. Okay, some view or some controller has to call it to be able to launch it, and that launcher place is become your host. You are the guest, they are the host. And when you go to somebody's house, it's whose responsibility to welcome drink, give you welcome drink and give you lunch, dinner, whatsoever. Whose responsibility it is when you're going to somebody's house? Whose responsibility is it? Whose responsibility it is to give you drinks, to give you lunch, to give you breakfast, to make sure that you are comfortable? It's the host responsibility. Forget about my case. If you come to my house, I will make you cook. Okay, you have to go to my kitchen and make a nice tea for me. Okay, forget about me. But about others, if you say it's the host responsibility, Anubhav's case is completely different. If you're welcome to my house. If you come, then you have to cook for me. You have to make things. We will cook it together. I love cooking, so I go do a lot of cooking, so we'll do it together. So whenever my cousin and my colleagues or they visit my house, I go into my kitchen along with them, and then I start cooking along with them, and I'll make them cut onions, I make them cut capsicum, I make them slice the bread pieces, all the things I give it to them to do it. Sometime marinate some vegetables. I love cooking saute vegetables and stuff like that. So all these things I ask them to do a lot of work along with me. So as long as it's a natural case, usually it's the host responsibility to make sure that you are comfortable. Same thing happens here. You have something called a view. Okay, you have a view or you have a controller, and this controller is a controller of a view. Let's take an example of controller 1, and I have a view 1. However, similarly you have also a controller and a view. Okay, so you have a controller and you also have a view, and then you have something called fragment over here. Now what happens? Why we created this fragment? Anybody? What is the purpose of creating this fragment? What is the purpose? Reuse, correct? So now it means this guy can also reuse it and this guy can also reuse it, isn't it? Right? I have created one reusable UI part which can be reused by multiple views. Now when this view is using and you have a button inside, let's say click me, where will you write the code for this click me button? When this view is using it, you will implement the code in this views controller. This is the host. So host is responsible for implementing the code. So you will be implementing the code for click me here. Okay, click me here. And when you open the view 1, you actually at runtime, what happens is this button will be appearing inside your view. You won't even feel as an end user that this is a fragment. Okay, user won't see it as a fragment. User will see as an embedded part of the view. So which means user is seeing like the button is part of the view. You click on it, it is like just like a view button which is handled by its corresponding controller. Similarly, an instance of this fragment is again deployed here, and again correspondingly you will have to write the code for click me inside of controller 2. Clear everyone? Click me should be written here. That's a different code, can you can write it where it's the fragment is getting embedded. Is that clear to everyone? Host is responsible, and that's why I call fragment as a parasite. Okay, so my style of teaching is very unconventional. You won't find these examples anywhere in any books, because this is my own style of teaching you the concept so that you can remember. In Gita, Bhagwan Krishna said that something which is very Extreme is what human mind remembers. Okay, so you don't remember maybe yesterday night which vegetable did you eat, which fruit did you eat yesterday in afternoon, what lunch you had in the afternoon. You don't remember that, but you must be remembering when India won the World Cup. Where were you? What were you doing? With whom you were sitting, right? When there was an attack on Taj Hotel in Mumbai, what you were doing at that moment, what were you eating at that moment, that is what you remember. Okay, so extreme emotions always gets remembered, and that's the reason why I always try to put examples which are extreme emotions related somewhere to your memory, and then you attach to it, you hook to it, and you remember the concept. And there is one concept called parasite concept in biology. We all learned biology in our schooling days. What is a parasite? Anybody? What is a parasite bacteria in biology? What is parasite? Parasite is a bacteria which doesn't cook its food on its own. It relies on the food cooked by host. So it goes and sit onto some host. Let's say if a parasite comes inside your body, it will start eating the food and energy cooked by your body. Okay, it will not rely, it will not do its own, it will rely on host. It's like paying guest. Okay, similarly here fragment is like a parasite. You invite the fragment, it brings you the functionality, it brings you the feature, but it relies on you, it relies on the functionality which you provide him. Clear everyone? That's what the fragment is. Syntax for fragment, let's quickly write syntax for fragment. There are two parts. One is the defining the fragment. Second is consuming at design time, which means embedding inside view of a view directly. And second is consuming at runtime. Okay, so first, how do you define the fragment? It's very simple. It's typically an XML. So you use core as a namespace, fragment definition, and then of course mandatorily you have to define the core namespace, which is sap.ui.core, and then of course your other namespaces like sap.m. It's just like a view, it's a tiny view, understand, it's a tiny view guys. Okay, it's just like a tiny view. Fragment definition. Clear? This is how you will define a fresh fragment, a reusable piece of UI guys. Okay, a reusable piece of UI. This is how we define a fragment. Okay, clear everyone? How do you define a fragment? This is how you define. Moving next, consuming a design time. You have to consume it, you have to embed it. Okay, so for that you will again use fragment and its name and its full path of the fragment where you're embedding. Typically this piece of code is written inside of a view guys. Inside of a view you will be writing this to embed a fragment, to basically bring in a fragment and put it inside of a view. That's what you will do it. Then comes is consuming at runtime. So runtime means using JavaScript code, you got to consume it. So you can instantiate a fragment just like a natural object. So say new sap.ui.xml fragment, and then put here the path of the fragment, and then pass the object of current controller also to the fragment. Very important, we have to pass it so that it can access the controller variables, controller models, objects, everything. So this is how you pass the object of current controller to the fragment. Now this is how you create an instance of a fragment at runtime. If you want to call it at runtime, I'll show you both the techniques of calling a fragment at design time and runtime within the view, and maybe using JS code. All this we will see it in detail in our next session. Just an introduction of fragment for you to review, and then in next class we will just go ahead and take a use case, end-to-end use case, and to be able to build a fragment guys. Clear everyone? What is that we want? A fragment concept. Parasite concept, remember it's a guest concept. Parasite concept, you can relate it somehow, and with that in next session we will see how to consume it. We'll create a use case and we'll try to implement that use case using fragment concept. Reusable UI parts, very powerful concept. called fragments in UI5. You may see it. Now, another question to all of you, are there JS fragment also? Anybody? What do you think? Are there JS fragments? A question to all of you. Absolutely yes. If there is an XML view, there is a JS view. If there is an XML fragment, there is a JS fragment also. Okay, but since our view technology, mainly the views are created using XML, we use XML fragments only. We don't use JS fragments. Clear? Just the way we are using XML views as priority in majority of the projects. Similarly, we use JS. We don't use JS views. Similarly, we don't use JS fragments. But yes, there are concepts of JavaScript fragments also. Clear, everyone? Okay. Fragments are without controller. There is never ever a controller for a fragment. Very important point. Yes, are there controllers for fragment? Question is no. Okay, then where do you write the code for button clicks and events? You rely on host controller who is calling it. Clear? Who is calling it? Tomorrow's class we will see it, guys, don't worry. In tomorrow's class I'll show you example where you will clearly understand this concept. We'll take an end-to-end use case. We'll try to build it using fragments. Okay, a lot of interesting things coming up on your way. And next week we will complete our Fiori phase by completing two more topics. One is custom control, and one concept which is left over is also called Google Map integration. And then we will move to OData services. So by far I think 29 classes over. 30th will be tomorrow, and then we have 10 more classes remaining, out of which 6 classes will be on OData and 4 classes will be on other stuff. Okay, so that's what we will be doing in our next session, guys. Clear, everyone? So with that, it's a wrap on today's class. See you tomorrow at the same time. There is a question here from Udit. Let me take that up. So the question is, let me just check. In SDK in samples, we see below code for routers. Can you explain meaning here? Get routes. Okay, there is a code in SDK he has found and is trying to know what is this code doing. This dot get router dot get routes, and it's trying to get the route name. No problem, let me show you what is this code doing. Let's come back now. Since we have our router, we can test these codes. Okay, no problem, we can test these codes. So let me do one thing. I come here and try to put this. So this dot router is our router object. Okay, and maybe just go into debugger. Okay, and just come here to the app, press F12, let it hit my Hercules function with the debugging. You will see it is hitting my debugger now. It is hitting, and I come to this piece and I say this dot router, which gives me my router object. That's what is written over there also. And then it does something called get route with its name. So what we will do is we say this dot get routes. Oops, get route with the name. Maybe just do get route, and I want to put my route name. Route name, guys, you will get it from your manifest JSON. So let's go to manifest JSON, and here you will see your route name. Here you see route name detail and master. That's your route name. So it's just trying to get an object, I guess, or check if this route is there or not. Press enter, you see the route exists. So system is just trying to, maybe they're trying to get the object of the root for that particular instance at that point of time. After getting this root, they must be doing something with this root, Udit. So something you need to check it. Okay, so instead of underscore o router, ours is this dot o router. Okay, this dot o router is what is as compared to their underscore o router, which is nothing but a global object of the router, which we created as a o router. Underscore is typically used to indicate private variables in JavaScript. Okay, underscore is usually used to create it as a private variable. Okay, it's just a naming convention that this particular variable scope is only within this view. It's not globally available for you to in other controllers and other views. Just to indicate a private variable, guys. That's the meaning of underscore. So don't panic. It's just a naming convention in JavaScript to indicate a private variables. Clear? How can we debug the code? First we press F12, then we can go to next step. Okay, we can go back. So maybe if I come here, you can see if I want to debug now code, it's already covered in my previous videos, Vara. I think you didn't watch, still my old videos. Debugging steps were already covered. However, I'll just quickly repeat. So we can press F10 for the next step. You see it went to the next step. I press F10 again. Now it has created the path. Okay, so F10 is for the complete this step and go to the next step. If I want to go inside, I can press F11. So you see it's making a call to get parameter method. So I press F11, it goes inside now. You see it's inside now, get parameter. Okay, it's inside it now, and then it come out. Okay, so this is how you can debug. F8 means continue till the next breakpoint. So I put a breakpoint 34 F8, and you see it hits here till the next breakpoint. Clear? How can we do debugging? Yeah, so F8, F10, F12, F11, like that you will proceed. There's something went wrong. What is exit? Exit is F8. F8 is your exit. Okay, F8 is your exit. F8 is your exit. Okay, great. So with that, it's a wrap on today's class. See you tomorrow with the fragment concept. Very interesting concept, guys. I love fragment concept because it gives me modularize my UI. We will see that in the next session. Till then, have a nice day and goodbye. With Fiori and will Fiori enhancement classes will start? No, Fiori enhancement course is only available in video mode. I literally don't have time to start that course. My batches on HANA Access, Access Advanced, ABAP on HANA, Suite on HANA, CRM powered by HANA are already running with HANA Cloud Platform. So I don't have at all any time slot free for conducting this course. This is purely available in video mode. Okay, OPA 5 and Q unit test is not covered in this video. For that, I promise to create a YouTube video for all of you. So stay tuned for some more time. I am not getting time these days to create YouTube videos. However, as and when I'm getting time, I'm creating some of them. Recently, the one which I created on is WebID versus Eclipse. Soon you will see also a video of integrating CDS view with business object processing framework in S4 HANA. That video I'm planning to launch. Afterwards, a launchpad integration video I'm planning to launch. Okay, all these things I'm planning to launch, but you need to wait for the right time. Is there any type called faceless component for component.js? What is the difference? Faceless component is nothing but this thing what you created here. This is a faceless component. The formatter concept what you did, this is a faceless component. It doesn't have a view. Okay, what is a faceless component? It doesn't have a view. That's called faceless component. Okay, doesn't have a view. It's a faceless. Face means view. Face is not there, faceless. Which testing technique is used in real-time projects? Usually the unit test by developer is done using OPA 5 tests in UI5. If you want to create unit test, OPA 5 is the way. For automation tests, usually we use Selenium in our company for doing automation test of UI. For OData test, we have OData double test framework for CDS, and for natural OData test, we also use ECAT for OData testing. At the backend level, we have SECAT underscore OData transaction in SAP system to be able to automate OData services using ECAT extended computer-aided testing tool. Then coming more, we also use the Istanbul framework to be able to do code coverage testing. Then we use load runner for browser to be able to do load testing, and then we also do a little bit of manual testing, which is for new features, and regression is done using Selenium Java framework. So we write Selenium JavaScript for automating the UIs with Selenium JavaScript, and then finally adding these Selenium JavaScripts inside of HP Quality Center, and then run it into the batches for making sure there is no regression defects. Testing itself is a very big area. Um, I've been an architect also for one of the testing product which we had built long back in US. So I have evaluated all these testing frameworks and stuff like that. It's a very vast area. And usually for a developer, I think it's enough to go ahead with unit test, OPA5 test at a UI level. And in backend, I'm not sure, I'm not seeing people using SECAT OData for OData testing, but yes, you can definitely go ahead with that. Again, you for functionality wise, like function modules or your classes, you have unit test framework in ABAP, which is inbuilt. You can use that as well. So again, variety of options, but testing is not in my scope of this course. Okay, if I would like to, then I would start completely a new course on testing actually, which has all these testing techniques covered. Okay, but yet again, you got to learn all these things over a period of time in a project based on your project need. Now this router concept can also be handled with launch backend for forward navigation. That's what exactly we're doing, Shiva. So if you see when we are on a screen, and if I click, let's say 5 items, apple, cherry, pear, papaya, and I say back button on the top, you see it will select my previously selected items here. And if I say back
Okay.
again, it select apple. If I say back again, it says cherry. If I say forward again, it say apple. Yes, you have any questions?
No.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm good.
So that's what it is doing actually. And this is something which you can't handle in WebDyn Pro or BSP. What I used to do when I was a WebDyn Pro developer, I used to put a back button inside my application itself. Okay, like this back button I used to put inside app, because these buttons never used to be supported by WebDyn Pro and BSP. Those who are in WebDyn Pro, you may already aware of this limitation of WebDyn Pro and BSP, that these buttons doesn't work with WebDyn Pro and BSP. But UI5 breaks this, because we are now stick to open standards, which browser understand pretty well. JavaScript, client-side JavaScript, very powerful. Browser is so much compatible with it. It directly understands HTML, CSS, JavaScript. All that is pretty much good. Now, Hitesh says a question: should I complete second course before I take third HANA course? It's your choice, Hitesh. Completely your choice. You can decide what you want to go ahead with. I would say, wait. I would say wait. Don't jump into multiple courses together. It will be a problem for you. If you have ample time, I'm sure you can. But my recommendation is stick to one thing at a time, or maximum two things at a time. Don't jump over between things कि मैं ये भी सीख लूं वो भी. You will be able to learn, but you need to go in the right flow. You need to also give some time to yourself to appetite these things. It's not like it's a pill, you take a pill and you become an expert. You need to give time to it. You need to give time to concepts. You need to practice. So that takes time. Okay, that's a human nature. We are not PK. You know PK, what PK used to do? Anybody, do you know PK? What PK used to do? PK's feature. What PK used to do? He used to touch a person, and the person to whom PK touches, PK transfers all the thoughts, all the memory, all the learnings of that person to himself. That's what PK used to do, right? So don't try to become a PK. Okay, you cannot be a PK, guys. You cannot touch the laptop and transfer all the files in one shot to your memory. It takes time. It needs practice. Okay, last question from Udit. No more further questions on this session afterwards. Why UI5 project is shown as a BSP application when deployed in Gateway? Because there is no dedicated UI5 artifact created in SAP. They create it as a BSP application because BSP supports JavaScript in ABAP stack. Okay, that's why it's created as a BSP application. There is no dedicated UI5 type of application which Gateway understand. They have reused the concept of BSP, which supports JavaScript to some extent. Hence, it's created as a BSP application. With that, it's a wrap on today's class. See you tomorrow at the same time. Have a nice day and goodbye.